Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the compassionate and merciful. I am deeply grateful to God for giving me the blessing of visiting you again. It was last March that I had the opportunity to be here. And in between, we have had opportunities to meet with Bryce in Iran, in London. And also some of our students have been here. So we keep in touch throughout the year, but this visit of mine is very important for me to make sure that I meet my friends here and I show them my respect and appreciation for the great work that they do here. The topic, as you know, is the people of the book, or Ahlul Kitab. And this is a very important topic, and it has lots of dimensions. What I want to share with you, and then would like to listen to your comments and questions and ideas, is only one aspect of the Quranic notion of the people of the book, which I think is maybe the most fundamental aspect, or maybe one of the most fundamental aspects of this notion. And I think in theology, we should always try to find out what would be the way that we can make sense of a notion and then bring it part of our system of understanding, not just some bits and pieces of information. So therefore, I try to refer to the main framework that the Quran gives us about religions, and then to see how the people of the book fit into that framework. In Arabic, kitab means something which can be written. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's already written, but something that can be written. But many times it is used for something which has actually been written. But it's important to remember that kitab doesn't need to be actually written. For example, when we say that God has given a book to a prophet, it doesn't mean that it was from the beginning written and came with binding. It's something that can be written. For the Quran, we have kitab as a general title, and we have Quran. It's something that can be recited and read. So it's a speech, it's a word that can be written and can be read. So this is the general term of the kitab. But in particular, the Quran uses the book either for Quran itself. For example, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. In the beginning of the second chapter of the Quran, you find a reference to the Quran as the book. But sometimes it is used to refer to Torah, to Gospel, Injil, and other divine books. And you find that it is in this sense that the term or combination of Ahlul Kitab is used. For example, in the very famous verse that we use for showing how interfaith dialogue is rooted in the Quran, God says, قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تَعَالَوْا إِلَىٰ كَلِمَةٍ سَوَاءٍ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ. Tell all people of the book, come towards the common word, something which is common between us. أَلَّا نَعْبُدَ إِلَّا اللَّهَ وَلَا نُشْرِكَ بِهِ شَيْئًا. And that is not to associate any partner to God. We only serve God, the one. This is a common word. So, Ahl al-Kitab means the people of the book, means people who believe in a divinely revealed book, which is a point that is common with something that even can be used for Muslims. This is also a very important thing. And I had this idea for some time, and recently I found that one of our great contemporary scholars who passed away a few years ago, Allama Muhammad Ali Ja'fari, a great scholar, philosopher and theologian, he also has mentioned this, that when we say Ahlul Kitab, it also includes Muslims. Because Muslims also believe in a divinely revealed book. So, although most of the time it can be taken as a reference to people who believe in Judaism, Christianity, and Zoroastrianism, those who have faith in revelation, but it can include also Muslims. But what I want to share with you, after giving this little introduction, is my understanding of the whole concept of book and religion in Islam, according to the Quran itself, which is the most important source for understanding Islam. The way we normally look at these religions is what we have learned from the books on history of religions and books on theology, which from childhood have formed our mind and understanding, as if we are dealing with different worlds, which are all separated by walls. There is Judaism, there is Christianity, there is Islam, as if there are three different things. And then even when it comes to different traditions or denominations inside each, we think that these are totally different things. Sunni Islam, Shia Islam, Catholicism, Protestantism, as if we are dealing with the things which came like this from heaven. And it's not possible to cross these walls or even think of an idea of religion which doesn't recognize these partitions. So this is the way our mind is set. But I would like to invite you to have a journey into the Quran and see how the Quran presents these realities to us. Has it been sent by God, one religion or many religions? This is a very important question. And then we understand the concept of book better. The Quran, in many ways, makes it clear that God has only designed one religion. There's only one religion. And that one religion has been introduced by different prophets and messengers, and then reintroduced, represented and again represented, but it is one religion. And no prophet or messenger is the founder of this religion. They are just explaining the will of God to people. You don't find any reference in the Quran that Prophet Muhammad says, I brought you a new religion, and that is called Islam. Or Jesus says, I brought you a new religion, that is Christianity. Or Moses, for example. You don't find anything like this. It's only one religion, and the only founder is God. No prophet or messenger is founder of any religion. They are just preachers of this one reality. Let me give you some references from the Quran. The Quran says that God has sent to all nations messengers. لَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا. We have sent to all nations messengers. There is no nation in the world to whom no messenger was sent. This doesn't say messengers were sent to every generation of every nation. No. But at least to every nation, a messenger has been sent. Maybe 2,000 years ago, maybe 3,000 years ago, maybe more often. But at least to every nation, a messenger was sent. And for those of you who are familiar with the Islamic theology, you know that Rasul is more than Nabi. Nabi is prophet. We have, according to Islamic hadith, 124,000 prophets. And these are the people who receive revelation. Out of 124,000 prophets, we have 313 Rasul, messengers. These are more special. These are the people who have been given a message. The rest of the prophets have preached the messages given to these Rasuls, to these messengers. And as you know, out of these 313, we have 5 which are the most outstanding ones. These are what we call people of determination, Ulul Azm, including Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Prophet Muhammad. So these 5 are the most outstanding ones. So the Quran says, to every nation, a messenger of that caliber that I said, 313, has been sent. What was the core of the message? لَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنْ يَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. The message was the same, and that was to serve God and not to follow the devil. Follow and serve and dedicate yourself to God, to the absolute goodness, absolute truth, absolute beauty, absolute love, absolute mercy. So, all messengers took this message to all corners of the world, which was the same. Or for example, the Quran says in Surah Yasin that God has made a covenant with all children of Adam. Alam a'had ilaykum ya bani Adam. Haven't I made this covenant with you, all children of Adam? This is an innate promise that we have made to God. What is that covenant? Allah ta'budu shaytan, innahu lakum aduwwun mubin, wa an a'buduni hadha siratun mustaqim. That covenant, which is introduced as the right path, is the same thing which was the core of the message of all messengers. Not to follow Satan, to follow God. This is the message of all the messengers. This is the covenant. This is the right path. Or for example, in Surah Bayyinah, the Quran says, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ حُنَفَاءَ وَيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَذَلِكَ دِينُ الْقَيِّمِ. They have not been asked to do anything except to serve God with purity of intention, with sincerity, to pray and give alms. And this is the upright religion. So all messengers have invited us to this upright religion, to commit ourselves to God and to be praying and to be involved in charity, charitable work. Prayer and charity, these two come together in many verses of the Quran, and these are 2 pillars of commitment to God. Commitment to God needs to be demonstrated. I can show my commitment to God by prayer and by bringing good to this world, which is charity. It's not something that will not affect my behavioral life. It should certainly affect my behavior. The one who is turning towards God would bring good to the world. So, these are some verses about the core of religion. But then we have verses which make it even clearer. For example, There is a verse in the Quran which has been very much discussed by commentators of the Quran, by theologians. This verse is verse 213 of chapter 2. Lots of discussion have taken place about this verse. But I think it's not difficult to understand. Some people have misunderstood it, but it seems very clear if you look at it from a proper angle. God says, there was a time that human beings were united. They were not in need of sophisticated code of law because they were united, they lived together peacefully, they didn't have conflicts. But unfortunately, as soon as life became a little bit more hectic and more complicated, some of them started taking advantage. They tried to treat others unjustly. So God sent His codes of law in addition to general revelation which was coming from the beginning of the history of mankind. God started sending code of law, which is Sharia. Allama Tabatabai in Al-Mizan, he says, the first messenger who brought a system of law is Noah. Before Noah, there were instructions, but not a comprehensive code of law. There was no Sharia. It was Noah who wrote the first code of law. Okay, so human beings were united. Then they started conflicting. They were in need of some instructions, some manuals. Therefore prophets came. They brought them book, they brought them guidance, they brought them instructions. What happened? They managed to bring people together. But soon after, people started disagreeing about what was the message of the prophet. So we have a division before the prophet came, and then we have soon a division after the prophet came. So everyone said, I understand it better. So they tried to fight each other over what was the message of the prophet. And this is a sad reality. Messengers, great leaders bring unity, then after them divisions take place. And people, they fight over what was the unifying message, which is nonsense. Let me read for you this ayah, chapter 2, verse 213. فَبَعَثَ اللَّهُ النَّبِيِّينَ مُبَشِّرِينَ وَمُنذِرِينَ وَأَنزَلَ مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ. God sent the prophets as givers of good news and as warners. Many times these two come together in the Quran. Bishara and Inzar, giving good news and warning. Encouraging people to do good things and warning them that if they do bad things, there will be consequences. And sometimes maybe one of them comes, but normally both of them come together. So God sent messengers, prophets, as givers of good news and warners, and sent with them al-kitab, the book. Please listen. It doesn't say al-kutub. It doesn't say the books. Nabiyyin is plural. But al-kitab is not plural. God did not send books. God has always sent one book, but different editions. Sometimes I say, it's like, you have a huge work, like an encyclopedia, for example. You don't, make encyclopedia again and again. You just update it. You reprint, or you bring a new version. But the same book, the same name, the same author, the same purpose, the same contents. Details can be different, the depths can be different, but the same message. So God sent with them, أَنزَلَ مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابِ. God sent with them the book, not the books, بِالْحَقِّ, with full observation of the truth. This is very important. Over lunch, just I was telling John that this truthfulness is the most important thing in Islamic ethics. God sends the book with full observation of the truth, and book is received by the prophets with the same observation of the truth and is to be delivered with the same observation of the truth. بِالْحَقِّ أَنزَلْنَاهُ وَبِالْحَقِّ نَزَلْ أَرْسَلْنَاكَ بِالْحَقِّ. Everything is بِالْحَقِّ. Everything is at the service of the truth. So God said that He sent with them the book بِالْحَقِّ, truthfully. لِيَحْكُمَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ فِيمَا اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ. So that this book will be the judge between people. Not لِيَحْكُمُوا, لِيَحْكُمَا. It's not about the prophet, it's about the book. This book would be the judge between people about what they differed. But وَمَا اخْتَلَفَ فِيهِ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ أُوتُوهُ. But no one disagreed about the book except the people were given the book. Means now the people who believed in the book and they were saved from the first division, they started differing and created a new division. And this is the problem. فَحَدَى اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَمَا اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الْحَقِّ بِإِذْنِهِ. Then those who were true believers in any generation, God guided them towards the truth. So, you see this one book. In several places in the Quran, God says that the prophets brought clear signs, what we call al-bayyanat. Al-bayyanat means clear signs, clear communications. Scriptures, but when it comes to book, again Quran says one book. جاءتهم رسلهم بالبينات والزبر والكتاب المنير. Everything grammatically suggests that it has to be al-kutub al-munira, plural. Because messengers, bayanat, zubur, all are plural. But when it comes to the kitab, to book, it's not plural. Al-kitab. Messengers brought the illuminating book, not books. It's one book. Once, someone asked me a very good question. Someone who was a theologian, and when I talked about this, then referred to a verse of the Quran in which there is a mention of books. And I want to share with you, because maybe some of you also have this in mind, that what about those verses that talk about books? So I anticipate the question. And the answer is that if you reflect on those verses that the Quran talks about the books, it's about people and what is in the hands of people, what is available to people, not what God sent. God sent one book, but what is in hand of us is books. Like God has sent one religion, but what is in between us? Different religions. For example, the Quran says about Lady Mary, وَمَرْيَمَ ابْنَةَ عِمْرَانَ الَّتِي أَحْسَنَتْ فَرْجَهَا. One of the people that has been introduced in the Quran as an example for believers, men and women. is Lady Mary. She's an example, a role model for all believers, men and women. When the Quran talks about Lady Mary here, of course, in many places the Quran talks about Lady Mary, but here, one of the things that Quran says is صدقت بكلمات ربها وكتبه. She confirmed the words of her Lord and his books. His books. So people may say, what about this verse? It's talking about books. I said, don't worry. Let me give you myself another example, then I explain. Another example is آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه. The prophet, the messenger, believes in what has been revealed to him. والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وكتبه ورسله. They believe in God, in the books and messengers. So here we have books. So what is the conclusion? God says He sent the book, but believers believe in books. Mary believes and confirms books. So what is the conclusion? I think the answer is very clear. God has only sent one book, but what we have among us is we have Torah, we have Injil, we have Quran, we have Zabur, the Psalms, we have different presentations among us. We have to believe in these books, we have to confirm them, we have to accept the truth which is in them, but at the same time we should know that God only has sent one book. And even this book that has been given to us in different editions actually is itself originating from a hidden book. And that stands for divine knowledge. إنه لقرآن كريم في كتاب مكنون. Even the Quran comes from a hidden book. لا يمسه إلا المطهرون. No one except those who are purified can touch that hidden book from which God has sent down different manifestations. So it's only one book as far as God is concerned. When it comes to religion, the same. It's one religion. As I said, this was the message of all the messengers. This was the covenant of God with the children of Adam. And something more that is very interesting is that the Quran, when it talks about religion, says religion of the truth and not the true religion. You know, there is a verse in the Quran which is very much discussed about end of time. What would be the situation of religions in end of time, in Akhir al-Zaman? Which religion, if any, is going to be still there and which one is going to, for example, have upper hand? There are many discussions here. The verse in the Quran which talks about the fate or future of religion is very amazing. It says, هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق. Many people misinterpreted this verse. He is the one who sent his messenger with guidance and religion of the truth, not true religion. Some people say, Deen al-Haq, the true religion is Islam. It means that Islam is going to defeat all other religions. No, it's not Islam against Christianity. It's a religion of the truth. It means that truthfulness will, in end of the time, will be winning. Hearts of people would be prepared for accepting the truth. Opposite to religion of the truth is religion of falsehood. Opposite to religion of the truth is serving our ego. after false gods. So again, you see there is one reality, and that is religion of truth. Or for example, in many verses, the Quran talks about submitting our face to God. One of the notions that we have in the Bible and the Quran as a common notion is face of God. And you know, neither Muslim nor Christian believe that God has a physical face. But what does it mean, face of God? Seeking face of God. What does it mean? Turning your face toward the face of God. What does it mean? In my understanding, anything has one particular dimension, one particular aspect that if we turn to it, we can have maximum encounter. For example, if I want to have maximum encounter with a human being, what should I do? Should I face this wall and the other person faces that wall and speak to each other? Back to back? No. Face to back? No. Face to face. For two human beings, when we look at each other, we see each other, then this is the maximum encounter that we have. Face to face. But if, for example, there is something which doesn't have understanding, then turning my face towards it might be enough. Like, for example, there is a flower. Flower doesn't have a face, but my face should be geared towards the flower. If I'm looking to the other direction, I don't have good encounter with that flower. When it comes to God, how can we have encounter with God? It's a question. Is there any place that we should go and then we can see God? Is God in a temple or in a masjid, mosque or in a church? Is God in a holy land only? Where is God? We see people go to holy places, but they are away from God. Yes, going to a holy place can help, but we see people in holy places, they are forgetful of God. So being in a place doesn't guarantee encounter with God. And being far physically doesn't mean that you are far from God. How can we have encounter with God? The Quran says, wherever you turn, whether to the east or the west, face of God is there. You have to tune yourself to the face of God. Don't look for God. Open your eyes to God. Open your heart to God. God is everywhere. أَيْنَمَا تُوَلُّوا فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. You can turn to the east or west, north or south. God is there. So this is the concept of wajh. Then in many places, the Quran says that the whole idea of faith is to submit your face to God. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ دِينًا مِمَّنْ أَسْلَمَ وَجْهَهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَهُوَ مُحْسِنٌ. Who is better in his or her religion than someone who turns his face to God and he does good or she does good? So we don't need to do miracles. We don't need to master many sciences. It's just a decision of mind and heart together that we submit our face to God and then we do good things. You cannot submit yourself to God and do bad things. Anyone who does bad things, he has not turned towards God. And just recently I was giving a lecture in London and I said, look, There are people who do bad things and they think they are religiously motivated. They think they are doing this for the sake of God. They do it in the name of religion. But this ayah, this verse, is a refutation. Because whatever is your religion, whatever is your interpretation of the scripture, in the end of the day, the test for that is that you have to be muhsin, you have to be benefactor. Who can say killing, causing war, terrorism is ihsan? I'm doing good. What are you doing? I'm doing good. What? I am exploding houses. I am attacking places of public or private. This is not ihsan. It's impossible to really turn towards God and then fail to project light to this world, love to this world, mercy to this world, and make this world a better place for everyone. So the Quran says, who is better in religion than someone who submits his face to God and he or she is doing good? And then says, وَاتَّبَعَ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا, and follows the path of Abraham. This was the path of Abraham. We are not given a new religion after Abraham. Judaism, Christianity, Islam are not new religions after Abraham. We are all followers of the same tradition. Even Abraham himself didn't bring a new religion. Abraham is also a follower of Noah. وَإِنَّ مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيمَ. Even Abraham didn't bring a new religion. It's one line. Maybe at each time, different people represented it. But they didn't create it, they didn't found it, they didn't claim that they have monopoly over it. But when it comes down to us, then we think, oh, we are dealing with different realities. These are different religions, different presentations, and I can only accept one of them. And to show that I am really loyal to this one that I accept, I have to show that I am against the rest of them. This is misunderstanding. This is not getting the whole message. Anyone who really believes in God, the one, should be able to see how unity of God is reflected in His creation and revelations. If someone is knowledgeable, his knowledge is reflected in his work. If someone is wise, his wisdom is reflected. If someone is kind, his kindness is reflected. If God is the one, His oneness is reflected in the creation and legislation. We should have no doubt that God wants us to be united. In the Quran, when it comes to division, God attributes divisive acts to vicious people. For example, Pharaoh. One of the things that Pharaoh was doing was to divide people. وَجَعَلَ أَهْلَهَا شِيَعًا. He was dividing people. When it comes to uniting people, God attributes it to Himself. It's so good that God attributes to Himself. وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذْ كُنْتُمْ أَعْدَاءً فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ. Remember the blessing of God when you were enemies and God brought your hearts close to each other and united. So, to conclude, the Quranic concept of book has to be understood in the light of the whole plan of God for human salvation, for guidance. And that is to help humanity with understanding one message, and that is dedication to the absolute truth. And this was emphasized on again and again by different prophets and messengers. And the way towards that was shown to us through different books. But these are only different editions of the same book which is sent by God. So I stop here, leaving more chance for interaction. Thank you very much.